Hi everyone, for today's book review we're going to be looking at Titanic, Minute by Minute, written by Jonathan Mayo. This book is part of that subgenre of books that tell the story of the Titanic through correspondence, memories, letters, wireless transcripts, and written accounts of those who were on board, the passengers and crew. It allows their voices to speak and tell us the story of the Titanic through their eyes and their memories. This particular approach is a subgenre unto itself, and there's several books out there that take this approach. Voices from Titanic is a quite well-known one. Of course, we can't go beyond A Night to Remember, the greatest book and the one that pretty much cements how we collectively remember the Titanic. An extremely well-researched, condensed approach to allowing passengers and crew to tell us the story of the Titanic as well is 11:40 p.m. I have reviewed this book before. Feel free to check out that review. I can't state enough just how amazing the level of research has gone into this particular book. For those who want a slightly lighter approach to reading accounts of passengers and crew with some illustrations, may I recommend the 2-volume set of From Dusk Till Dawn, written and illustrated by Paul Quinn, and his companion volume, Titanic at 2, also written and illustrated by Paul Quinn. So there's plenty out there that look at the accounts of the passengers and crew. So what sets this book apart? This book is written in the present tense. As you read the book, everything is happening right there and then. The Titanic is sinking. The lifeboats are being lowered. You feel the immediacy through the text, and it is skillfully balanced as it weaves between passengers, crew perspectives, what's happening above decks, below decks, on the bridge, on the boat deck, down in the boiler rooms. So there's an immediacy in the text and the way it is compiled and put together. What is also interesting with this is that as you read through it, if you are familiar with the movie A Night to Remember, there are an incredible number of vignettes that appear in that movie that directly correspond to a lot of the survivor memories, and both this one and of course in the book A Night to Remember. And it's just fascinating to trace how individual memories are then not only put into print, but then also once put onto screen kind of cement the collective memory of how we choose to remember certain aspects of the Titanic. For example, that eternal image of Thomas Andrews, at the fireplace in the smoking room is based on survivors' testimony of a fireman who saw him just before he jumped off and managed to survive. We don't know if Thomas Andrews went somewhere else and how he died, but that is the enduring image that we have of him, and it is passed on in not just the books but also in the movies. There's plenty of vignettes there. This book is going to appeal to those who are fascinated and interested in the human side of the Titanic story, who are interested in the various personalities, not just the first class passengers, second, but also the very diverse third class and crew members. And also it will appeal to those who are just getting interested in the Titanic, because the text is so immediate, so impressionable, that it is very easy to read and it just flows along wonderfully well. To those who are familiar with the Titanic, who are familiar with the layout, and who are quite comfortable in the story and most of the personalities, this is also a good refresher, because there are just so many accounts that have been incorporated here that you might go, oh, I'm not familiar with this, or oh, I've forgotten about that particular personality. So there's plenty there to revisit if you are a Titanic fanatic. Normally I have pictures of what's inside the books, but in this instance this book is 99% text. There are literally a handful of photos sprinkled throughout its 300 plus pages, and there is a basic line drawing of the layout of the Titanic and the boat deck, so that as you are reading you can understand where on the boat deck most of the action takes place. This book is part of a series that chronicles historical events minute by minute. Other books in the series include The Assassination of JFK, minute by minute, and D-Day, minute by minute. So, putting all that together, this book is a fascinating and valuable compilation of memories and recollections of those who were there. What is impressive is that the sheer number of passengers and crews accounts that have been recorded and been able to be included into this text. There's over 30 of them, and it's a beautiful array of first-class passengers, second-class passengers, third-class passengers, and the crew. We get a wonderful spectrum of the diverse number of people and personalities and backgrounds that made up this ship on this particular voyage. And it's quite sobering at the very end of the book. There's at least 20, 30 plus pages that summarizes what is known about those who survived or those whose accounts have been incorporated into the book. And it's very sad that so many of the survivors exhibited symptoms of what we now identify as post-traumatic stress disorder. And back then, being stoic and having the stiff upper lip, these just symptoms were ignored and not dealt with, and it's very sad that so many survivors dealt with guilt and trauma, and it was just not treated for decades onwards. Particularly what seems to be lingering among all of them is hearing the cries of the people in the water. That seems to have stuck with them right through until their own dying days. If you love the story of the Titanic, if you love reading and learning about the personalities and what they felt and did during those fateful hours as the Titanic sunk deeper and deeper into the cold, dark Atlantic Ocean, then by all means, do check out this book. It is fantastically well written, with a sense of immediacy that grips you and takes you right through, flashing by until the last page. I will give this a 4 captain's hats. If you are familiar with the Titanic story, there is still so many people and accounts in here that if you read this, there is bound to be something that will grab your attention. So, by all means, do check it out. Titanic, minute by minute.